Oh, looks like
寝ました。
put him to sleep. Put him to sleep. So that's a great time to pull out some bombs, I would think.
Wait, I got
Yeah,
one
real
too.
quiet. And then Palico comes in with an extra bomb to help out.
音マイルも。
オートマイルだったりサポートハンターも
Oh no!
It's got the body.
Like bowling and only getting the far right pin, but it's still a point on the board. It still counts. Hello everyone and welcome to a new episode of PlayStation Underground. I'm your host Brett Elston, ready to talk about Monster Hunter Wilds, which comes to PS5 on February 28th. And I'm excited to be joined by several guests today, including right here on my left is Yuya Tokuda, director of Monster Hunter Wilds, Ryozo Tsujimoto, producer of Monster Hunter Wilds, and also from Capcom we have translation today from Mana, and playing is Blake on the DualSense controller now. And we're about to jump into a fight fighting in Nerscylla, which is a returning monster from past games, new to like the PS4 PlayStation world of, wasn't in World, brand new in Wilds, but is a giant spider, so be ready to see not just a big spider, but a whole lot of little spiders running around.
One note from Tokuda-san is that since we're slaying Nerscylla this time, Nerscylla wears the skin of Gypsyros on itself, and Gypsyros' skin is weak against fire element. And after you break the skin of Gypsyros, it becomes electricity becomes effective against it. So maybe switching around with those elements might be a good way or tactic to hunt Nerscylla.
And you're able to take two weapons in, and Blake's got obviously the hunting horn, but then the bow as well. So having that in mind of like, the monster's weakness or affinity may change in the middle of the fight, having that versatility is really nice. But before, once you've chosen your weapon, before you jump into that fight, eating is critical now, as always with Monster Hunter games. So there were some changes to how the buffs work, because it used to be you would go in and the buff would apply in that hunt only, but it's a little different this time, right?
今まではクエストに行って帰ってきて、
Unlike the past Monster Hunter titles where each quest was just one quest and your meal was only effective for that duration of the quest, in Monster Hunter Wilds you can continue to hunt new monsters while you are still out in the locale. So we changed the meal duration to be effective for a certain period of time, not for each quest.
またどこでも食べることができるようにしま
We
した。
also changed the food system so that you can make your own meal anywhere you want by using the portable barbecue grill, and you can also add additional like, spices and materials to it to make the duration longer.
And now we've stumbled upon Nerscylla here. So yeah, what made you choose this monster of all monsters that you could have, brought a fan favorite back from a prior game? What stood out about Nerscylla?
はい、まず強化種のモンスター、ちょっと他のモンスターの
We first off wanted to introduce a Temnoceran type monster into Monster Hunter Wilds, and for starters we began with Lullabarina. And Lullabarina was a perfect monster to kind of have the users play as like a tutorial to learn about how you can change the camera angle so that you can slay it efficiently, because it has very tricky and fast movements. And to add on to that, we wanted to have a monster that will be a little bit more challenging, that uses various elements so that you will have to really think about your tactics about slaying this monster, and we thought that Nerscylla was the perfect monster for it.
また今回潮流種のゲリョスというモンスターを
We also had plans of having Gypsyros as the returning monster, and because Nerscylla hunts Gypsyros and uses its skin on its body, we thought that it was a very good example to show the food chain ecosystem of the monsters, and we thought Nerscylla was a very perfect fit.
It's a very creepy monster, and yeah, once you know what's going on, what it's wearing on its back, it's pretty unsettling. Oh, looks like
寝ました。
put him to sleep. Put him to sleep. So that's a great time to pull out some bombs, I would think.
Wait, I got
Yeah,
one
real
too.
quiet. And then Palico comes in with an extra bomb to help out.
音マイルも。
オートマイルだったりサポートハンターも
Oh no!
It's got the body.
like bowling and only getting the far right pin, but it's still a point on the board. It still counts.
そうですね。
そうなんです。物理計算してますので。
It's got actual physics
Oh yeah, yeah.
in it, so.
For better or worse, you might miss. But that was a cool dodge there too. The bow, like keeping action, keeping active, mobile. A great counterpoint to the hunting horn, which is a little slower, more methodical. You got to think about every single movement from a close distance to get hits. But the bow, obviously, very agile.
あとこの今小さい雲とかもいますけど、こういった
On the screen right now, we can see many small spider-type monsters, and there may be players who are not very comfortable with that. So we added a feature which you can access through the options, where it allows you to turn on the arachnophobia mode, which will change the appearance of the small monsters. It will not have an effect on the large monsters like Nerscylla, because Nerscylla uses its specific body parts for attacks, and we didn't want to change the experience for that. So if you go into the options, you can change the appearance of the small monsters.
Nice. And I see Blake summoned 4 computer-controlled hunters with the SOS flare. So new to Monster Hunter Wilds, if you're playing offline or solo mode, you can come in, summon some help there to take the heat off you in the middle of a battle. So they brought in, their own weapons, got the heavy bowgun firing up into the sky. Oh.
でこの救難信号ってかなり序盤から上げることが
You
でき
can
ます
also use the SOS flare fairly early on from the game. So even if you are not very used to playing Monster Hunter, you can shoot up the SOS flare and hunt with your friends, people from all over the world, or with NPC support hunters.
くれますので。
We just saw Blake make good use of targeting a wound and then dealing enough damage to that wound and getting a big hit there, which is great. And there were some other weapon balances and changes from community feedback that you got in as well. I'm curious to hear some about how that last test went and some implementation of that.
We had many adjustments. We are planning on many adjustments for each of the weapon types, and there are some weapons that have additional movements, like the lance, that will be featured in the product version. But taking example for like the bow, if you use focus strike, the earlier versions of the game allowed you to, if you use the focus strike, just marks all the wounds available on the monster. But if you're playing with other players, it might interfere with their gameplay. It may not be really satisfactory. So we changed it a little bit, tweaked it so that when you are using the focus strike with the bow, it slowly marks the wounds and not all at once. So those are some of the adjustments that we made for the bow.
そうですね。例えばシュルーブで
For the hunting horn, there were some concerns about when you strengthen yourself, when you use a nose to strengthen yourself. It wasn't much of a. It was really effective, but we want to bring it to the same level at least as Monster Hunter World, and then start that as a base, and that applies for all the other weapons as well.
ランスとかで言っても、
We also, for example, taking the lance, for example, when you have like a counterattack using your shield, you really have to watch the movements of the monsters and then use that effectively to deal double damage. So we also added those as well.
Yeah. It looks like Blake succeeded and Nerscylla's down. The hunters are clapping away. Job well done. But any closing thoughts? We're just a few weeks away from launch on PS5, February 28th. But yeah, any final notes for players looking forward to launch?
そうですね。ちょっと発売もだいぶ近づいてきましたけど。
We are approaching not launch, but we do have post-launch plans to have title updates for this title. So even after launching the game, we hope everybody keeps their eyes on upcoming news about Monster Hunter Wilds.
Great. Thanks so much for joining us, and excited to play on February 28th. And thanks for watching, and we'll be back with more soon.
Thank you.